Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tale, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, and shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now let's get into today's tale, with just one text message from my bank. I turned my mother's dream vacation into her absolute worst nightmare. You won't be able to look away from the story of sweet, unexpected revenge, where a daughter pushed to her limit finally fights back will be. Using your credit card for this trip. Honey, my mother. Vivian announced, snatching my purse with the casual air of someone picking up a newspaper. She stood there in the middle of the bustling airport, terminal clutching my handbag like it was a winning lottery ticket, that familiar smug look plastered across her face. It was the same expression she always wore when she thought she was getting exactly what she wanted. My stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed at me to refuse to snatch my purse back and run, but years of conditioning, years of being there. Sponsible one. The good daughter kicked in. I knew the drill. If I said no, the emotional blackmail would begin. The guilt trips, the dramatic sighs, the endless phone calls detailing my selfishness and lack of family values. It was a performance I'd seen countless times, and frankly, I was too exhausted to endure it, especially not here in the middle of terminal seat. So I forced a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. Sure, Mom, I conceded, trying to keep my voice even. But on one condition. Her eyebrows shot up, suspicion clouding her smugness condition. I'm booking my own flight, I stated firmly, in my own hotel room. No shared accommodation. No way for anyone to accidentally get access to my cards. Her face crumpled like a discarded napkin. But family vacations are about being together. She wailed, the volume of her voice escalating, drawing the attention of nearby travelers. We always share rooms. It's tradition. Tradition also dictates that you ask before using someone else's credit card, Mom. I retorted, my voice hardening despite myself. Consider this my new tradition. She pouted, she whined, she argued, she even threatened to cancel the whole vacation if I didn't cooperate fully. But I stood my ground. I was going on this trip. It was supposed to be a rare family getaway after all, but I was just going to do it on my terms and with my financial boundaries firmly in place. Eventually, with a dramatic sigh that could rival a Shakespearean tragedy, she let it go, or so I thought foolishly. Naively, I actually believed that my little stand had set the tone for the trip. I should have known better. Vivian, for truly lets things go. She merely bides her time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike fast. Forward tour arrival at our tropical destination. Stepping off the plane, the humid air hit me like a wall, thick and heavy with the scent of salt and blooming jasmine. I was already mentally and emotionally drained, bracing myself for the inevitable storm of nonsense my mother was brewing. I'd spent the entire flight replaying our airport exchange, second-guessing my decision to even come on this trip. Maybe I should have just stayed home in my quiet, peaceful apartment, far away from the drama vortex. That was my family, but no, I was here now, and as we navigated the crowded baggage claim area, I tried to focus on the positives. Sun, sand, maybe even a few moments of genuine relaxation. Perhaps, just perhaps, this trip wouldn't be a complete disaster. Famous last words, because the moment we reached the luggage carousel, Vivian made her move swift, silent, and utterly audacious, like a seasoned pickpocket. She snatched my purse right off my shoulder, her finger surprisingly nimble for someone who complained about arthritis every other day. We'll be using your credit card for this trip, honey, she declared again. That same smug, triumphant grin plastered across her face. It was like a twisted, bizarre déjà vu, except this time her audacity was even more breathtaking. But this time I was ready. I didn't even flinch. Years of dealing with Vivian had turned me into a master of emotional poker face. I simply smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that probably unsettled her more than any outburst could have. Then, with a practice flick of my wrist, I pulled out my phone, tapped open my banking app, and turned the screen directly towards her. Then, you going to love this message from the bank. Mom, I said, my voice deceptively sweet. Her eyes darted to the screen, scanning in the words. Her triumphant grin faltering, then dissolving completely. The color drained from her face as she reread the message. her smugness replaced by a dawning horror. And then standing there in the middle of baggage claim, surrounded by bewildered tourists and rolling suitcases, my mother screamed. It was a high-pitched, ear-splitting shriek that cut through the airport den, turning heads for yards. Around people stopped, stared, and whispered. My father, always eager to devoid public scenes, shuffled a few steps away, pretending to examine a nearby luggage tag. Even my usually unflappable sister Lila looked mortified, but I just stood there calmly holding my phone, watching my mother's carefully constructed facade crumble into a million pieces, because I knew this was coming. I had learned through years of painful experience that my mother was relentless. She would pull stunts like this every chance she got, testing my boundaries, pushing for every inch she could take. And I had finally learned how to fight back weeks ago, anticipating this very scenario. I had called my bank. I explained everything, to a patient understanding. Bank representative, the years of financial abuse, the emotional manipulation, the lengths my mother would go to just to get access to my money. The rep was sympathetic, but more importantly, they were incredibly helpful together. We put in place some very specific, very effective security measures. First, we locked my credit card to my location. Any charges made outside my immediate geographical area would be flagged and automatically declined unless I personally approved them through my banking app, a digital fortress around my finances. Then for extra protection, we set my daily spending limit to exactly $1, one single solitary dollar. My mother's eyes wide with disbelief and fury were still Tommy phone screen. Her fingers clutched my purse so tightly that her knuckles had turned bone white. What did you do?" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. I just shrugged, fidgeting innocence. Bank security. Mom, you know how it is these days? They thought it was weird that suddenly I had all these big charges coming from a place I hadn't even been, yet her face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. Fix it. Fix it right now," she shrieked, gesturing wildly at my phone. Unlock your card, change the limit, do something. My mother was not the type to take defeat gracefully. Even as she screamed at me in the middle of the airport, I could see the wheels turning in her mind, already plotting her next move, her next attempt to circumvent my carefully laid plans. But for now, in this moment, I had won, and honestly, it felt pretty damn good. Later that afternoon, after a tense and silent taxi ride, I checked into my hotel room, a wave of relief washing over me. My room was on a different floor from my parents and Lila. Deliberate move on my part. I needed space. I needed a buffer zone between myself and the impending family drama. My room was small but clean, with a decent view of the ocean. I unpacked, quickly change into something more comfortable, and collapse onto the bed. Exhaustion finally catching up with me for a brief, blissful moment. I considered ordering room service, locking the door, and hiding away for the rest of the vacation. But I knew that was wishful, thinking Vivian wasn't going to let me off that easily. This was just the opening act. The real nightmare I suspected was just beginning, and I was right. The next morning, I woke up to a sound that sent a jolt of adrenaline through my system. Banging, not knocking. Banging like someone was trying to break down my door with a battering ram. I groaned, dragged myself out of bed, and peered through the peephole of me mother. And she was livid. Her face was contorted with rage. Her hair a mess here, ye's blazing with fury. Barely had time to brace myself before she started screaming through the door. "Open this door. Right now, we need to talk." I sighed, debating whether I should just pretend I wasn't in the room, but I knew Vivian, if I ignored her, she'd just escalate. She'd start pounding on the walls, yelling in the hallway, creating an even bigger, more embarrassing scene. Reluctantly, I cracked the door open an inch, keeping the security chain firmly locked in place. "What, Mom?" She shoved a crumpled piece of paper through the narrow gap. "The front desk says our card was declined. We can't check into our room. Fix it." I stared at the crumpled hotel invoice, then back at my mother's enraged face. "You didn't prepay," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "As if I'd asked the stupidest question. imaginable. Why would we? We were planning to use your card? Obviously. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to laugh so hard. I cried. The sheer audacity of it was almost comical. Instead, I calmly handed the crumpled paper back through. The gap in the door sounds like a you problem. Mom. Her face contorted further. If that was even possible, she slammed her fist against the door frame, rattling the entire door. You think this is funny? Where are we supposed to sleep on the beach? I shrugged again, maintaining my carefully cultivated air of indifference. Maybe you should have brought your own. Maybe you should have brought your own. Money, Mom. And then she completely lost it. The screaming escalated into a full-blown tirade echoing down the hotel hallway. Threats, accusations, insults, the whole 9 yards. She accused me of abandoning my family, of humiliating her in front of the hotel staff, of ruining the entire vacation through it all. My father stood silently beside her, his face a mask of passive disapproval. He never stopped her. He never stood up for him. Never once told her she was out of line. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Not my problem, Mom. And then with a quiet click, I closed the door in her face, sliding the deadbolt firmly into place. But Vivian predictably wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. An hour later, my phone started blowing up. Calls, texts, voicemails, a relentless barrage of digital harassment. I ignored them all, silencing my phone and burying my head under a pillow, desperately trying to block out the escalating drama. Then came another knock at my door, polite this time, almost hesitance. Auspicious, I peered through the peephole. Again, not my mother, not my father. Hotel security. I sighed, knowing exactly where this was going. Resignedly, I opened the door, keeping the chain still latched. What's the issue? I asked the uniformed security guard, trying to sound as calm and collected as possible. The security guard gave me a tight, professional smile. Your parents are at the front desk, ma'am. They saying you stole their money and left them stranded. I laughed a full, genuine laugh. This time, the absurdity of the situation, finally, breaking through my exhaustion and frustration. You're kidding, right? And he laughed back. His smile remained fixed, strained. They're insisting you let them stay in your room. They say they have nowhere else to go. Oh, hell no, I said, crossing my arms, my earlier amusement vanishing. Do they have any proof that is stole? Anything? He hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. Well, no, ma'am. But I cut them off again, my voice sharp and decisive. Then they're lying. I booked my own room. I paid for it with my own money. They tried to steal from me, and now they're facing the consequences. That's not my problem. The security guard looked even more uncomfortable, glancing nervously down the hallway. Look, ma'am, I'm not trying to take sides, but they're saying they have nowhere else to go. The hotel is fully booked, and well, they're making a bit of a scene at the front desk. I raised an eyebrow, my patience wearing thin. Still not my problem. Another voice chimed in from behind the security guard. She's right. Officer leaned past the guard and saw the hotel manager standing there, a middle-aged woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and the weary, exhausted look of someone who'd dealt with one too many entitled guests. She turned to me, her expression firm but professional. I checked the system. Myself. Ma'am, you paid in full for your room. Your parents, however, did not secure a reservation if they can't provide another valid payment method. They'll have to leave the property just then. My mother's voice shrieked from down the hallway, even louder and more shrilled than before. This is outrageous. I demand to speak to the owner. My daughter is a thief. She's stolen all our money. And just like that, with a few firm words from the hotel manager and a reluctant escort from SEC security, they were gone, vanished from the hotel, stranded without a room, and hopefully finally realizing that their entitled behavior had consequences. But my mother, ever resourceful, had one last desperate trick up her sleeve that night, seeking amendment of peace and quiet after the day's chaotic events. I went down to their sort bar to grab a drink. I just started to relax, sipping my cocktail and watching the sunset over the ocean, when my phone buzzed again. A notification from bank attempted login from an unrecognized device. My blood ran cold. I sat up straight, my stomach dropping like a stone. Then another notification almost immediately after the first password reset requested. I knew exactly what was happening. My mother, desperate, furious, and utterly lacking in any sense of boundaries. She was trying to hack into my bank account. I sprinted back to my room, my heart pounding in my chest. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and frantically pulled up my banking app. Sure enough, someone I wonder who had tried to reset my password, probably hoping to bypass my location, lock and drain whatever meager funds were left in my account. I immediately changed everything. New password, even more complex and unguessable than before. 2-factor authentication activated on every possible setting. Security alerts cranked up to the maximum level. I was turning my digital life into Fort Knox. Then I did something I should have done a long time ago. I called my bank again and put a full fraud alert on my account. I explained the situation, detailing my mother's escalating behavior and her repeated attempts to access my finances. The bank representative was horrified and assured me they would flag my account and monitor it closely for any suspicious activity. Finally, feeling a sliver of grim satisfaction, I sent my mother a text message. "Nice try, Mom. Hope you enjoy the rest of your trip." No response, not immediately. Anyway, but the next morning my phone rang, jolting me awake. It was my father. "She's saying you locked her out of the bank," he said, his voice weary, defeated. I smiled, a genuine, albeit lightly vengeful smile this time. "No, Dad. I locked me out of the bank. She just happened to be trying to break in at the time." Silence stretched across the phone line. Then he sighed, a long, drawn-out sound of utter resignation. "You know how she gets Emily?" "Yeah," I said, my voice flat, emotionless, "and I'm done with it." And that's when Amadi, my final move. The move that would truly end this cycle of abuse and manipulation. The move that my mother in her wildest nightmares could never have anticipated. Because trust me, my mother did not take it well. I was done playing defense. It was time to go on the attack. I had spent my entire life letting my mother get away with things. The lies, the manipulation, the subtle and not so subtle theft. Always with the same tired excuse, "She's your mother. Emily, family takes care of each other." But this, trying to break into my bank account, that was crossing a line. Even she couldn't excuse, even in her own twisted logic. This wasn't family taking care of each other. This was outright fraud. This was criminal. So I made a decision. I pulled out my laptop, logged into my online banking accounts, and did something that would change everything with trembling fingers. I initiated a credit freeze. That's right. A full comprehensive nuclear level credit freeze. That meant no new accounts could be opened in my name. No loans, no credit cards, no anything. Even I wouldn't be able to access my own credit without going through layers and layers of security protocols. It was drastic, yes, but it was necessary. It was the only way to truly definitively protect myself from my mother's financial predation. Then, emboldened by my newfound sense of control, I pulled up my bank transactions, scrolling back through months of statements. And that's when I found something truly disturbing, something that made my stomach churn. With a cold, sickening dread, my mother had already gotten into my finances. There it was, staring back at me from the screen, a series of small, almost insignificant withdrawals over the past year and 6 months. $20 here, $50 there, always spaced out, just enough that I hadn't noticed them amidst my regular expenses. But added together, they amounted to hundreds of dollars siphoned away, little by little, without my knowledge or consent. I felt sick. She must have found a way to access my account information. Before this trip, maybe she gotten my card details from somewhere, or maybe, and this thought made my blood run even colder, maybe she had somehow convinced a bank tell her that she was acting on my behalf. The Possibilities were chilling and equally infuriating. Either way, I was done completely, utterly, irrevocably done. I called my bank again, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disgust. I reported the fraud, detailed the unauthorized withdrawals, and requested a full audit of every single account in my name. I had them reissue my debit card change, all my security questions again, and block every single device that had ever accessed my account, including my own laptop and phone. Nuclear-level security. Indeed. Then with a deep breath, I texted my mother one last message. "Hey Mom, just letting you know. I found all the money you took. The bank is investigating. Now expect a call soon." Their response came instantly. Predictably, dripping with self-righteous indignation now. "Dare you, we're family, I didn't steal. Anything, you're being crazy," I ignored it. I didn't have time for her denials and manipulations anymore. I was already on to my next move. I called my sister Lila. I knew Lila wouldn't defend Mom. Lila had borne the brunt of Mom's manipulations just as much as I had. But I needed to hear it from Lila to confirm my suspicions, to know I wasn't alone in this. I used to climb into my bed when thunderstorms scared her, the teenager who scribbled bad poetry and sang off-key and believed fiercely and stubbornly that we would both escape the mess we were born into. Sometimes love means missing someone even while you keep them at arm's length. Sometimes it means missing who they used to be or who you hoped they could become. I didn't know if Isla would ever be someone I could let back into my life. I didn't know if she would ever be safe for me. But I knew, finally, that I wasn't responsible for saving her, and I knew that saving myself was enough. Spring turned into early summer. Nashville grew heavier with heat and the kind of lazy sunlight that made everything feel slower, softer. At work, life settled into a new rhythm. I wasn't the star employee. Everyone automatically trusted anymore. But I wasn't a ghost either. I built trust back the hard way, one project, one meeting, one quiet, steady moment at a time. There was a strength in it in knowing that everything I had, now I had rebuilt myself, brick by careful brick. One humid afternoon in late June, I was sitting at my desk finishing up some quarterly reports when an unfamiliar mail pinged into my inbox. The subject line read, "Remp important information about Isla, Shields." For a moment, my stomach dropped. Then I opened it. It was from a woman named Malene Carter, someone I didn't know. She introduced herself Asa, hiring manager at a law firm in Knoxville. Apparently, Isla had applied there for a receptionist job. At first, I didn't understand why Grace was reaching out to me. Then I read further. She explained that during a standard background check, Isla had listed me as a character reference without telling. Grace politely asked for my comments on Isla's reliability, professionalism, and character. I stared at the screen for a long time, my hand still on the keyboard. Isla had assumed, like she always had, that I would cover for her, that I would vouch for her lie, for her smooth over her rough edges. For a second, old instincts war inside me. The urge to protect her, the urge to enable her one more time. But I wasn't that person anymore. I took a deep breath and began typing. I was honest but measured. I didn't unleash anger. I didn't rant or insult her. I simply explained that I could not recommend her for a position that required trust, discretion, or professionalism based on recent personal experiences. I left it at that. No embellishments, no cruelty, just the truth. When I hit send, I felt a strange, fierce peace settle over me. This was my revenge. Not a dramatic scene, not screaming or fighting. It was choosing myself. It was refusing to be Isla's safety net while she hampered herself again and again. A few days later, Grace replied briefly thanking me for my candor and confirming that they would not be moving forward with Isla's application. I never told Isla. She never called to ask why she didn't get the job. Maybe she figured it out, maybe she didn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. Life kept moving. I finished my probationary period at work and earned back full responsibility for my projects. Luke and I stayed casual friends, grabbing coffee now and then, sending each other dumb memes during slow afternoons. I started seeing a therapist, weekly unpacking not just Isla, but all the weight I had carried for so long without even realizing it. For the first time in years, I began imagining a life built around me. My wants, my needs, my future. Not just a life spent managing someone else's chaos. One evening, sitting at a small wine bar with a few coworkers after a long week, I realized something. I was happy. Not loud movie scene happy, quiet, steady, ordinary happy. The kind that roots itself deep and stays. I still thought about Isla. Sometimes I still wished her well, but I didn't miss her the way I used to. I didn't miss the way I used to miss people, as a wound that never healed. A door always left cracked open. Now it was just a memory, a closed chapter, a lesson learned. The past didn't own me anymore, and that more than anything was the ending I had needed all along.